A June morning in 1910, somewhere on a dirt road between Pittsburgh and Washington, a black vehicle of enormous luxury sits axle-deep in Pennsylvania mud, its leather interior intact, its brass fittings glinting absurdly in the summer sun. A man named Gus Hewitt is on his hands and knees in the mud beside the rear wheel, wrapping rope around the axle. In the back of the vehicle, a telephone rings. Nobody answers. Nobody knows what to do. The vehicle is a 1910 Pierce Arrow Special Touring Landau. Its 714 cubic inch inline-six still rumbling in the Pennsylvania quiet, built in Buffalo for $8,250. A fold-down bed inside, a pressurized sink, a telephone, and it is completely stuck. This is how the world's first motorhome announced itself. Not at the New York Auto Show where it had gleamed under exhibition lamps, but here on an unnamed dirt road with nobody watching and nothing coming to help. To understand how a vehicle like this came to exist, you have to go back 6 weeks. To March 1910 and the exhibition floor of Madison Square Garden where the New York Automobile Show had opened its doors. Arthur Whitmore arrived early before the crowds, a steel manufacturer from Pittsburgh, 51 years old, with close-cut gray hair and the impatient stride of a man who had made his money fighting machines that broke down. He had owned 3 Pierce Arrows and trusted the brand the way other men trusted God. What stopped him, what stopped every man in that building, was the vehicle draped in canvas at the center of the exhibition floor. Pierce Arrow pulled the cover at 10 o'clock sharp. The Model 66 Special Touring Landau emerged, black coachwork, brass fittings, a roof rack fitted with luggage straps. The crowd pressed in before the canvas had fully settled to the floor. A company representative explained what was inside. The fold-down bed, the pressurized sink, the telephone connecting driver to passenger, the chamber pot toilet. The crowd laughed, politely first, then not so politely. Whitmore did not laugh. He moved forward. He opened the rear door himself. A fold-down step emerged automatically. He ducked inside, sat on the leather bench, found the fold-down sink latch, and tested its pressure. The tank hidden in the coachwork still delivered water. Whitmore sat in the back of that vehicle for 11 minutes. When he emerged, his expression had not changed. He asked the company representative how long delivery from the Buffalo factory would take. The answer was 6 to 8 weeks. He ordered one that morning. Price, $8,250, more than many Americans earned in a decade. Pierce Arrow built the Touring Landau to order. In 1910, it is believed only a handful were ever made. Each one was unique. If you want to see where Arthur and the Touring Landau end up from here, here's what I ask. See that subscribe button? It's our exchange, your way of saying this story reached you. Hit subscribe if it did, drop a like if it moved you, and tell us in the comments what this road means to you. It helps us keep telling stories like this. Back to Arthur and the Pierce Arrow Touring Landau. The Landau arrived in Pittsburgh in late May, delivered on a flatbed rail car from the Buffalo Works. Gus Hewitt, Whitmore's chauffeur of 7 years, took delivery at the rail yard. He walked around it once, then twice. Then Gus said, quote, 78, Whitmore told him to prepare for a drive to Washington. Gus nodded once, went to the hardware store and returned with rope, chains, and a block of beeswax for the axle joints. The journey from Pittsburgh to Washington covered roughly 300 miles. Outside of city limits in 1910, fewer than 7% of American roads were paved. The Lincoln Highway did not exist yet. There were no road signs anywhere. What existed were dirt wagon tracks beaten by horses and mule carts for decades, narrow, rutted, and entirely unprepared for a vehicle weighing nearly 2 tons. When it rained, they became rivers of mud. When dry, they became dust. Gus Hewitt had driven wealthy men across bad roads before, but nothing he had driven before had a sink and a telephone in the back. He kept the massive engine at a low idle, feeling for the road beneath the wheels. By the end of the first day, they had covered 60 miles. The rear axle had packed with mud twice. One tire went soft near Uniontown, Pennsylvania. Whitmore sat in the back and read 3 newspapers cover to cover. At dusk, Gus pulled the Landau off the road onto a level patch of grass near the Pennsylvania state line. There was no motor hotel. The concept did not yet exist. Darkness ahead. A farmhouse half a mile behind. Whitmore folded the rear bench flat. The mechanism worked exactly as demonstrated at the New York show. He lay down in the back of his automobile and looked at the leather ceiling for a long time without speaking. Gus slept beneath the vehicle. In 1910, this was not unusual for a chauffeur. The Pennsylvania night was warm and wet. The Pierce Arrow's brass fittings had already begun dulling from road dust and the first traces of mud. By the third day, they had lost a wheel bolt at a creek crossing. A farmer stood at a fence in western Maryland and watched them work, the way you watch something you cannot believe you are seeing. Word traveled faster than the Landau did. When they reached a town in western Maryland, a crowd had already formed on the main street. Not to help, to look. The touring Landau was the strangest thing most had ever seen. A boy of about 10 ran alongside for nearly a quarter mile before he fell behind. He called out, "Mister, what is that thing?" Gus did not answer. The engine's deep six-cylinder exhaust swallowed the boy's voice whole. The roads improved as they neared Baltimore. Stone macadam surfaces had been laid on the main approaches. Gus increased speed. The Pierce Arrow's suspension settled. The telephone between the compartments crackled to life for the first time on the journey. Whitmore lifted the receiver. __quote _137 Gus. After a pause, __quote _140. They reached Baltimore that evening, the longest single motorized journey Whitmore had made in his life. 6 days on the road. The Landau had been pulled from mud twice, lost one bolt, and collected enough dust to reduce its black lacquer finish to the color of a dry Pennsylvania riverbed. Whitmore had not washed, but he had slept in the vehicle every night. He had used the fold-down sink each morning, its pressurized tank still delivering water through the brass tap. He had eaten cold beef in the back. The thing worked. What did not work was the world around it. Roads rated for horse wagons flexed under 2 tons of Pierce Arrow. Towns had no fuel depots. There were no garages for a vehicle this complex. The machine was ready. America was not. In Washington, a senator who had heard of the journey invited Whitmore to call. He said, quote, 161. Whitmore answered, quote, 164. The return journey to Pittsburgh took 10 days. Gus found better routes through Virginia, cutting toward established toll roads where stone-packed surfaces gave the Landau's massive tires better purchase. The engine never faltered. The roads faltered for it. Pierce Arrow's engineers had done their work well. The Model 66's T-head inline 6 ran through dust, mud, and creek crossings without complaint. The pressurized fuel system delivered gasoline reliably. The drum brakes were adequate for the vehicle's measured pace. What Pierce Arrow could not engineer was infrastructure. There were no roadside garages capable of servicing a vehicle this complex. Fuel was purchased from general stores and sometimes strained through chamois leather to remove impurities before reaching the carburetor. When Whitmore returned to Pittsburgh in mid-June, he wrote 4 pages to Pierce Arrow's management in Buffalo. He praised the vehicle completely. Then he listed the 19 infrastructure improvements required before such a machine could travel the country freely. Pierce Arrow received similar letters from the handful of other touring Landau buyers that year. The vehicle was not a failure. It was a revelation, stranded on the wrong side of a gap between engineering vision and a world not yet built to receive it. In 1910, fewer than 8% of American roads were paved. Most motorists traveling beyond city limits expected at least one stuck vehicle per journey. The touring Landau was no different in that respect, except it cost $8,000. Still, the Landau sparked something. Trade journals ran photographs. Automobile clubs debated it at meetings. A writer for the Cycle and Automobile Trade Journal called it the most ambitious road vehicle yet conceived. A seed had been planted. By 1915, Roland Conklin had pushed the idea further, a 21-foot gypsy van on a bus chassis driven from New York to San Francisco. Newspapers covered every mile. Road life as a concept was slowly becoming thinkable. The Good Roads movement gathered legislative momentum. The Federal Road Aid Act of 1916 channeled federal money toward paved surfaces for the first time. By 1920, 8 million vehicles were on American roads. The touring Landau was already history. Whitmore kept his Landau in a carriage shed behind his Pittsburgh home through most of the decade. Gus Hewitt maintained it without complaint or comment. The car was taken out perhaps twice a year and always drew a small crowd. Pierce Arrow continued building the Model 66 through 1918, refining it with each series. The company remained a symbol of American luxury, owned by senators, industrialists, and actors. Most of the world's royalty kept at least one in their collection. In 1921, an open-bodied Pierce Arrow carried Woodrow Wilson and Warren Harding to Harding's inauguration. That same year, ordinary Americans were beginning to outfit their automobiles with camping bodies, clumsily, inventively, with no instruction at all. By the early 1920s, dozens of small manufacturers were producing what they called auto campers, wooden bodies fitted onto light car frames. The touring Landau had dreamed it first. These simpler machines were delivering the dream to ordinary people. The Airstream travel trailer appeared in 1931. Winnebago opened in 1958. The interstate highway system, signed into law in 1956, finally gave the American road the backbone it had always needed. The country was catching up, 40 years late. Pierce Arrow did not survive to see it. Competition from Cadillac and Packard eroded its market through the 1920s. Studebaker took control in 1928. When the Depression arrived, the company could not recover. The Buffalo factory closed in 1938. But the idea Pierce Arrow carried onto the Madison Square Garden floor in 1910 survived everything. Today, roughly 11 million RVs are registered across the United States. It all started in a crowd that had no word for what it was seeing. Most of the touring Landaus built in 1910 are unaccounted for today. A few Pierce Arrow Model 66s survive in private collections and museums, restored to a condition the roads of their era never allowed them to maintain. In every fold-down bed, every compact sink, every vehicle designed so you can carry sleep and water and shelter wherever a road will take you. The fingerprints of the Pierce Arrow Touring Landau are there. Nobody called it a motorhome yet, but it was. The Pierce Arrow Touring Landau sits now only in photographs and institutional memory. Engine cold, telephone long silent, the road it imagined still carrying millions of people forward. If this story stayed with you, please like and subscribe. Your support helps us keep finding these roads and telling the stories left on them. Tell us in the comments where you're watching from.